Well, there's already some questions. Sick. Good morning, or good afternoon, wherever you happen to be, or good evening if it's like that. Hope everyone's doing all right. I am just waking up a little while ago, drinking some coffee, getting my mind right, and there's already questions. Sick. How important? How important is duty? How important is it? I know you've done the tape over the screen hack, but it's gonna have an effect somewhere along the line. 45 to 55 being the ballpark figure. What is the repercussion of say 70 or 30? Marty, I think there's no repercussions because I have been using tattoo machines for a lot longer than anyone's been using a meter. I've never, I mean, people have been using machines for fucking, how many years? How many fucking decades and decades? And we've been doing just fine without a meter. There are no repercussions. You can kind of chase down some issues and fine tune a little bit better if you are aware of the duty. The duty being how much time the circuit is spent open or closed. Ideally, you want it as close to equal as possible, in that 50 range. 50% of the time it's open, 50% of the time it's closed. If it's closed more than it's open, it's gonna get it has more tendency to get hot. But that specific measurement is irrelevant if the machine's running right. If you tune the thing and it's not getting hot, then the duty doesn't matter. This is my whole point. Like, we've been doing fine without the meter for ages, and I really I admire the work that Bill Baker did coming up with that. He's a tech nerd, like me in a lot of ways, but he really goes in on that stuff, and I just I appreciate where he was coming from with it, but I just don't think that it's something that's really all that needed. We've been tattooing fine without it forever. All right? So put a piece of fucking tape over it. Use the machine. Wondering why some tattoo machines have a little bend at the end of the front spring and where the contact screw meets. I see. So when I set up a machine and I bend the contact screw back a little bit, it's to sort of make up for that little bit of an angle that I'm trying to avoid. Like, I don't want to kick that contact screw out here, so I'm putting it here, and then I'm bending. So if your spring is like this, right, and your contact screw is here, I'll bend that spring a little bit to come back and meet that, so that way I don't have to use. I don't have to cut my spring shorter. I don't have to lean my say I want the amount of flex that the long spring is giving me, but I don't want to have to kick my contact screw out that far. So it just makes up a little bit of distance. That's all. It doesn't really serve any purpose other than to kind of fill in that gap a little bit. What is the purpose on some machines of the extreme angle of contact screw? The purpose is, well, it's not really a purpose. It's sort of a result. The result being geometry. So if you have short geometry frame and you want to use a long front spring, you're kicking that contact screw out further to meet the end of the spring, so you have more flex on that. If your contact screw is bent, is angled back a little bit, you're going to end up with a shorter front spring, which is going to be stiffer, right? So you're angling that out to allow for a longer front spring and for more flex, which is going to give you something that runs slower or harder. What else is new? I'm flying to LA today to adopt a puppy from my good friend Scott Campbell and his wife. lake. They adopted a mama pit bull, and she happened to be pregnant with, I think, 5 or 6 puppies. I'm flying down today to pick one up. I'm pretty excited about it. And then flying right back, same day. So I'll be back tonight. Come back and eat more tangerines. What else? Do I need to have more interesting things behind me to evoke more questions, more thought? There's a cool Sean Barber painting of my kids over there. I got another Sean Barber painting over here of a machine. He took the vise off that one and put it back on upside down so he could, I guess, have more clearance so his needle bars would work. And I thought it was pretty funny that he made a painting of the machine with the thing flipped upside down and backwards. Clearly we have to have some more. There we go. Going to the shop to do a Q&A. That's a good question. I hope Alex is on here watching, because we're supposed to be in the shop today, but he and Cam have been working on some sort of a new setup. And I was told that last week or 2 weeks ago was going to be the last time. But now it's this week. It's going to be the last time. And I think that you guys need to bombard Alex with direct messages on the machine page and tell him that you demand a change of venue, because I don't want to do this on my phone anymore. I don't want to do it from my house anymore. I think we're all ready to move back into the shop. And Alex, if you're listening, we're ready. I know, I'm just giving you a hard time, buddy. New custom machines you're putting out at Workhorse are absolutely beautiful. Thank you. Thank you very much. Really stoked on those. One of the new ones that we're doing is a production version of the circuit board machine with the switchable capacitors. So I'm really excited about that one. I'm gonna hopefully, actually, I'll get a hold of Johnny today and see about when might be good. But I'm thinking about going out to Workhorse to kind of finalize some of the stuff on that here in the near future. So I'll be posting some updates on the new circuit board machine, and it's got some cool new features that the other ones did not have. Let's see. Seth, will be an ideal way to set up a liner to run big groupings. 14 round shaders and up, as much as possible, so has very little give. Okay, Morgan, first off, let's talk about your needle setup. When you talk about big liners, using a 14 round shader is working against you because the needles themselves have a shorter taper. You want to use a needle with a longer taper. With the shorter taper, you're going to have to push more and you're going to do more damage to the skin. I always recommend Black Claw. All the Black Claw liners are a long taper, and will go into the skin effortlessly. You want to look for a long taper liner and don't use a shader, because that will affect how your machine runs and how effective it is, because you don't want to have to push and overexert the machine. So it's going to be a 14 round, something for big stuff is going to be a little bit slower than your standard setup, because you want your pigment to be able to, it's a lot of pigment you're putting in the skin. So you want your pigment to be able to keep up with your needles. So you want to slow it down a little bit. 8 wraps or 10 wraps or something like that is going to be good for, something big. Nice stiff spring setup. Um, nice long, heavy armature bar with the with some weight taken off the front end, so your geometry is tightened up. Um, I feel like if you go on the Workhorse website and check out uh, the Belmont, if you just get a look at the Belmont liners, those are set up perfectly for like 12, 14, 18 rounds. And check out how those are set up, and it'll sort of be like a really straightforward, almost how to on how to set up something for big stuff. And yes, have ever think of having guests on machine? Yes, Juan P and other builders. Yeah, we plan on doing some videos with other builders. The pandemic has slowed us down considerably. We've been planning on traveling to go visit with some other builders and other tattooers, not even necessarily builders, but develop some workshops with other people. The pandemic slowed us down, but it's something that we will eventually get back to and have some more folks on. Right now, we're limited to what we're doing right now, but we're gonna figure it out. Alex and Cam are on the job. Um, I'll check in with them about that as well. Jordan, I have a long throw shader machine that I built up. Runs very smooth, but the copper contact sparks once it's working voltage. Not the blue spark, but it's almost like flecks of the contact. Um, is there more to that, Jordan? Is it affecting the way that it runs? Um, the sparks could be just because you've got copper on steel, um, which is common. You know, it's going to get a little bit of carbon there. It's gonna spark a little bit inherently. Sometimes if your power supply isn't super clean, the power that's coming out of your power supply, it might spark a little bit. But if it's not affecting the way that it runs, it's really nothing to worry about, especially if it's just a little bit. So we can get back to that, Jordan, when you let me know if it's affecting the way that it runs. Will the circuit board machines be very limited? We are hoping they will be a production machine. I mean, we're never going to do them like by the thousands, but they're not going to, be extremely limited at all. Limited to what humans are capable of producing with their hands. That's about it. I love the thick, loose lines that shaders put in, but you're right. Any specific needles by Black Claw you'd recommend for the same effect? Um, I really, really like um, those hollows. Like if you like the thick, loose, then try the 10 or 12 hollows. The eight hollows, 10 hollows, 12 hollows, 14 liners, 18 liners. Any of the straights, you really can't go wrong with any of the straight groupings. Um, just stuff that you don't want to have to push very hard. You know, like the shader has a much shorter taper, and it requires so much more force to get it into the skin, and you have to slow down a lot to get it into the skin. I built a few machines this year. They have been color packers. It was 1818, but noticed it was hitting too hard. And so I use 20 on the rear, 18 in front, and find that it is still hitting. What do you recommend, or what am I doing wrong? Use a fatter, shorter front spring. Have you tried turning the voltage down? That would be my first, the first move. I would just turn the voltage down. See what that does. Um, Whoa, the sparks are flying to your hand. Let's see. Once I've turned it up, I asked if it's affecting the way the machine runs. So I turned it up to where the hit is good. You can kind of hear it get a teeny bit skippy, and the sparks are flying onto my hand. I don't want to bring that near my client. Yeah, I can imagine you don't want to shoot sparks onto your client, especially if you're tattooing their neck or something and you shoot it onto their face. Um, that sounds like a power supply issue. Is it only that machine that's doing it? Um, Isn't rock, isn't rock? What do you recommend, or what am I doing wrong? Use a fatter, shorter front spring. Man, it's kind of hard to say without seeing it. And when we are on the new setup, you'll be able to message me pictures of the machine while we do this, so that way I can go back and forth and look. But right now I can't look at it. Alex, please get us hooked up so that way I can answer these questions better. Let's see. Yeah, I would try I don't know, but see, it's kind of hard to say, like, I don't know if I should say use a fatter, shorter front spring, because I can't see the one that you're using now. So it's difficult to give you that advice, and I apologize. We'll get the system set up to where we can do this in real time. Once I've turned up to, let's see, it's only on this machine is a CNC'd iron frame, so it's very strange. That's sparking. Yeah, that's odd. Have you tried a different contact screw? Have you tried putting something in that's not copper? Maybe try silver, or even try steel, and see if it does the same thing. I'm curious. And if that still does it, if it still does it after you change the contact screw, then I'm gonna guess it's the capacitor. Like, that's the only thing I can think of. And you can even just hold a capacitor up against the. Supposedly 2 weeks is when we're going to have the new setup. If you can hold a capacitor against your front and rear binding post while the machine is running and see if that spark goes away, then you know it's a bad capacitor. Just connect it while the machine's running. Hold one lead to the top binding post, one lead to the rear binding post. Run the machine. If the sparking stops, then you know that's what the issue is. We're trying to chase down variables, we're trying to eliminate variables. So, like, try one thing at a time. Try a new contact screw, try a clip cord, try a capacitor, all these things. You don't want to take the machine apart if you can avoid it, right? Let's see. You're welcome, Jordan. And Ezrin, Ezend Rock. Allegedly 2 weeks. 2 weeks from today is when we're supposed to have the new setup. Apparently, Cam has been working on it with Alex, and we'll be able to do a better job of answering stuff in real time. I don't know exactly what the setup's going to be, but it'll have good lighting, good camera, and it'll be in my workshop and no longer in my dining room or living room. Right now, we're in my dining room. You find the real difference between copper and brass contact screws. Copper probably better. Yes, copper is definitely, in my experience, more conductive. Seems to stay cleaner longer. Machines tend to run stronger for me. It's a more pure material. Right, brass has copper in it, but it also has silicon in it. Also has tin, whereas copper is just copper. Right, so it's not a mixture. It's not an alloy. It's just copper. If that makes sense, it's kind of like pure iron versus different types of steel. Right, pure iron is just pure iron. Pure copper is just pure copper. So if you have that pure material, it's gonna be more conductive than an alloy would. Ezekiel, there we go. Easy. Right on. Okay. Easy and Rach. Okay. I was like, man, is this guy like from Austria or something? And I don't know how to say his name. Yeah, I haven't done any brazing since you told me that. I need to go get some goggles, because you're totally right. My eyes are like getting worse and worse. Seems like every week my eyes are worse. It's probably not long before I can't see a goddamn thing. So thank you. Definitely, like, colors are certainly distorted, and I never thought about the flame having something to do with it. Never even occurred to me. Easy and Rach. That makes so much more sense. I'm all like Esenrock? Esenrock? Not European. What else? What else we got? Let's keep it popping. Man, I don't know. It's like this look like some like very very European. Nothing else. Man, it's gonna be a quick one today. Get all the questions answered. 20 minutes, 21 minutes. I'm excited for the new format, though. I'm not even leaving the airport in LA. Lurch, what was it? Lurch Katie? I think I get in around 4:30. I'm literally staying at the airport. My friends are bringing the puppy to me. I'm gonna hang out at the airport for a couple hours and try to get the dog to shit before I get on the plane, and then I'm gonna fly back to Portland. But thank you. I appreciate the offer for help running around. I do. I bought a car part outside of LA, and I was going to try to go run and get it because the guy, he doesn't really want to ship it because it's large, and I was thinking about going to get it from him, but he said it's 50 miles from the airport. So I don't think I'm going to be able to swing that and come back and get on the plane again. Rush hour and stuff's going to fuck me, so I can't do that. That was my hope. I should have given myself another day just to go pick it up. You can also see your puddle better when you're brazing. Night and day difference. If you could send me a link to some of the goggles you're talking about, I'd be stoked because I do need to buy some, and I'll probably go grab some tomorrow. I'm hoping to be back in the workshop maybe Wednesday. I'm still dealing with this weird finger issue. See how this one's got like a big protrusion there? Like basically the tip of my finger got moved over a little bit by compliments of my disc sander. And it's healing still, but there's a lot of nerve damage in here, so I don't have any feeling in this part of my finger. So holding small parts isn't very effective. I just drop them. But it's getting better. It just feels like crazy pins and needles, and it looks crazy. Just like essentially just like relocated the tip of my finger over like a quarter of an inch. But hopefully be back in the shop Wednesday and can start tuning some stuff and building some stuff. Hero, I did, hi all, Seth, I did the trick you told me about, putting a yoke under the aluminum frame that was overheating. It seems to be working perfect now and hitting stronger. Awesome. Now, what he's talking about is he had an aluminum frame with a really thin yoke. We talked about how it needed some mass to make those coils pull a little stronger. So I suggested that he take a yoke, put it under on the outside of the frame, so you don't have to really mess with any machining. Put a yoke on the outside under the frame, put screws through it. Make sure they're steel screws that make sure everything connects, and it should drop your amperage a little bit, and thereby drop the heat on the machine without doing any real modifications to it. Just putting some material on the outside of it, so for some extra mass. You want that mass to be as similar to the armature bar as possible. What else? Here's an easy one. Morgan Carpenter. Here's an easy one. I always put my capacitor in with the positive side connected to the rear post. Will a machine run with this reversed? I know I could easily answer my own question, but It will run. Now, and it really won't, it'll run the same, but what I've been told is that the capacitor is designed to run that direction for the sake of longevity of the capacitor. I've been told, always been told that the capacitor will last longer if you pay attention to the polarity. So the way that I usually have set them up is with the little groove on the capacitor facing downward or towards the rear of the machine, and that is where you'll see a little arrow, and usually it says negative there. So I've typically put the negative or black connection on the clip cord. So we used to polarize the clip cord. We would follow the lead all the way up to the plug. So when you made a clip cord, you would you just got the message this morning about the Q&A, so I almost missed it. I'll make a note to ask Alex to send out more reminders during the week, so that way it's not a last minute thing. The issue is that right now the format we're using is we're setting up a new link for every time we do it, just due to limitations of this format. But when we have the new format, you won't need a new link every time. So anyway, I was saying about clip cords. When we used to make clipboards for ourselves, we would actually polarize them and look on the wire would have the positive and the negative side marked, and we'd follow that from the plug all the way up to the clip, and then we would shrink wrap one side of it black, or tape one side of it black and one side of it red, and the black side of the clip cord would always go to the rear binding post, and the where it connects to the lug and the capacitor, and then the red side would connect to the frame. And that's how I was told, when I first started tattooing by, all the old guys that I knew always told me to run your machine polarized that way and the capacitors would last longer. I've never found them to run any differently with it switched, but I do think there's some truth in the longevity aspect of it, if that makes sense. Exactly. And if the capacitor was positive facing up, you could counter that by reversing your clip cord. Exactly. That's the point I was trying to make. It's not a big deal, but it is a deal, if that makes sense. What else? Alex approached me about doing a kind of a custom machine build-off thing for Machine in partnership with Workhorse. Maybe have Workhorse put together some sort of a special, like limited edition small run of build-it-yourself kits for Machine, and then kind of have a either like a machine build-off thing, or maybe do a live Q&A where we're putting the machines together and tuning them sort of in real time. Hopefully, when we get the new setup, something we could do. So I, see if maybe some folks would be interested in doing something like that. Figure out what sort of frame we get the most feedback on using, and if it's something that we want to do, take it from there. Whether it be some sort of a a contest with some incentives, or if we're just doing something where we're like doing like a build along thing where like I get one of the kits, you guys have a kit, and then we sit there and put the thing together and go over the tuning of it in real time, which I think would probably be the most effective. Maybe we could do a couple different means of getting it together. Thanks a lot, Lurch Katie. If you're out this way and ever need help, let me know. Keep up the kick-ass work, and thanks for helping out the tattoo community. It's my pleasure. I really appreciate you appreciating it. It's something that I love to do. It's one of my favorite ways to stay connected to the tattoo community is by doing this, especially since people aren't tattooing very much right now. We're all kind of on a break, and for me, it's important to be able to keep fucking with my stuff. And I'm definitely excited to get back into the workshop as soon as my hand feels better. It just fucking sucks. I'm prone to hand injuries all the time. Over it. Let's try to take some more questions. If not, man, we can wrap this shit up early and get on with our day. go do other stuff. Go make myself another coffee. Sure, we all have stuff to do, but I want to answer more stuff, answer more questions. We don't even need to talk about machine stuff. We can talk about other stuff. We talk about music, talk about cars, talk about dogs, talk about horrible relationships, talk about fucking all the crazy shit going on in tattooing right now. People are fucking going nuts. Man, any tricks about getting solid palm tattoos? I don't have any. I've only done maybe 3 of them in my life, and I don't know that any of them have. I don't know that any of them have healed the way that I wanted them to heal. There are a handful of people that I know how to do them. Thomas Hooper, Oliver Peck, Dan Higgs, who's not tattooing anymore, Scott Harrison, and I'm sure that there are many more. But the method that I've observed is what was described as sort of like sewing it in. Instead of like running a line, you're not just like dragging your line, you're like pushing, over and over again, and sort of like, instead of just dragging your line, you're like kind of stitching it a little bit by bit, right? Kind of just sinking it all the way in, pull it out, and kind of stitching along the way, super deep. Here's a non-machine question. Are you still involved with Black Claw? I was following the IG post and saw them disappear. No, I am not involved with Black Claw at this particular time. We saw a good opportunity for me to step away and handle some stuff, and for Grime to take the helm. Grime started a separate company called Black Claw a long time ago, and he had the name trademarked, and it has always been essentially his thing. I went to Grime with the idea of reviving the company. It used to be a clothing thing that he was doing, and I went to him with the idea of doing the supply thing, essentially just needles right away, and flew to San Francisco, had a conversation about it. I said, let's use the old Black Claw name, and it was with the understanding that that was his intellectual property. We'd gotten to a really good point in the company where it was perfect timing for that to be its own thing, and for me to do my own thing, and put some more time into Workhorse, put some more time into my home, machine stuff, and kind of step away from the disposable side of things for a while. Grime and I are still really good friends. We talk more now than we did when we were in business together, and hopefully at some point I will have another outlet for those sort of ideas that I have. But right now, I'm not doing that supply stuff. Mug. Hello, Mug. Hello, everybody. When you have a crooked frame, what's a way to straighten it up? I mean, the spring shelf and or the front part. That depends on the material of the frame. If it's brass, I just put it in a vise and I move it around until it's straight. If it's brass, if it's steel or iron, if it's iron, you got to be a little more careful because certain types of iron can be brittle and can break if you start hammering on them. So, is it a casting? Is it machined? Is it welded together? Alexander D, can you review, clarify clip cord and capacitor current direction? For a capacitor with the dimple down towards the back binding post, you said you would connect the negative to the back post. Yes. I would double check on the capacitor, but typically you're going to see a little mark on the capacitor itself. So the current is going from the clip cord's negative through the machine to the positive. Well, the clip cord negative goes to the rear post. The clip cord positive goes to the spring shelf, or if there's another binding post in the back that is not connected to your soldering lug, right? Let me get a pen and make a little diagram. I'll be right back. Let's see. So if your binding post and your spring shelf, let's see. All right, so here's your capacitor. There's your rear binding post, your top binding post here, right? And this is saying that it wants negative to run this way. So when I hook the clip cord up, right, I've got the positive clip cord here and the negative side of the clip cord here. Does that make sense? So you got your negative going that way. Alexander, thanks for clarifying. I always had thought of current running the opposite direction, positive to negative, and the positive clip cord wire is the one traced to the center of the jack, correct? That I would, man, it's been a long time since I built one of those. That's going to depend on the way that the female jack is wired, because if the female, I would imagine that seems to reason that the outside, so you got on your female jack, there's like a little bit of a, it's like you have the center on the outside, and I would imagine that typically you would have your positive wire here and your negative wire here, and when you hook your jack, when you wire your jack to your clip cord, it would follow the same logic. But I don't know that everyone always wires them the same way. I also wonder if that preference would be, well, I'm gonna look into that a little bit more. I'm gonna look inside my power supply and find out. And I'm also gonna look on the internet, because that is a good question. Because if it's wired backwards inside of the power supply, maybe somebody, that doesn't matter. Maybe it doesn't, if it's wired backwards inside the power supply, then it's going to negate any effort that you'd be making. So you should definitely consider that too. I guess you could figure it out with a multimeter. And Morgan, don't worry about it. I mean, yeah, it's no one's business, but it's also not like a sore subject or anything like that. It's not something that's like a big deal. A lot of people ask me, all the time, and Grime and I are still tight, and things are super cool. I've got no complaints, and I don't have any reason to go like start a competing brand or anything like that. I've got enough stuff on my plate, and Grime has always he's always looked out for me, so I'm not worried about it. Things are very cool. No, Nothing else, huh? Slow day today. Let's take one more. And if anybody's got a question, let's do that. And if not, we'll wrap it up at 40 minutes, which is a quick one. But I'm here. Let's do it if we're gonna do it. And if not, man, let's get on with our days. And hopefully, within 2 weeks, we've got the new format set up, and it's gonna be a lot more robust. That's it. Nothing. All right. I'm going to call it for today. Light on the questions. That's fine. I think we had a couple of good ones. Let's see if there's anything we need to recap. Ezekiel, if you could send me the information about those goggles, I'd be stoked, and then I will share that information and hopefully help others prevent their eyes from becoming as bad as mine. And I hope that the questions that were answered were clear enough to make them understandable, so I'm not confusing anyone. There we go. Is it easy to switch out caps on the circuit board machines? No, it is a total pain in the ass on the ones that I've made so far. But I'm hoping that on the workhorse machines, they'll be a little easier to do. It's hard soldering the coils to them. It's pretty labor intensive. It's really, it's kind of just like, because it's neat and fun and they work cool, but they're definitely not easier. They're not easier to make by any means. So hopefully we'll end up with some sort of a provision on the circuit boards that make changing them out easier. Maybe we can make it to where they just like pop in and pop out. That would be fucking ideal, and then you'd have even more versatility. Maybe we can make some sort of a little module that connects. Let's see. You're welcome, Andrew. Thanks, everybody. I'm gonna call it, and I'm gonna go drop my daughter off with her friends for a camping trip. And hopefully you guys all have a good day, and I will see you in 2 weeks with a new format. Thanks Alex and Cam for getting that together. I'm just busting your balls about taking so long to do it. I know it's a lot of work. So we're all looking forward to it. We're all ready for it, and I will see you guys in 2 weeks.